Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video showing off how to do some colony management. In this case, because I've been skipping through some of the things and I was going to be taking it video through video, but I could take one of my older saves and just demonstrate how things are working. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, let's get to it. So, specifically here are some of my colonies I've got going on my latest game. You can see that the income you earn per turn is substantially more than what you end up with early game. And in fact, when it comes to total income, it can mean that you're practically drowning in money. And in this case, this income is actually deducted because I'd used a custom production order that month as well. So let's take a look. So I picked as my very first planet was an ocean world. And with my first planet, my focus was looking for something that had a hazard rating as low as I could find. So 75 to 100%. If you find a 75% planet, that is pretty much the first planet that you should use. It is going to be very cheap to run, specifically for expensive structures like the orbital works, which has like 10,000 credits upkeep. The military base, I believe, also has quite a high upkeep. Yeah, that's a high upkeep of 10,000 credits. Same with other structures like fuel production or light industry. You can think of these as more like end chain factories, and as such you want them on a good planet where it'd be very cheap to manufacture things. Whereas structures like, say, farming or aquaculture, in this case because it's an ocean planet, are relatively cheaper. And the usual structures like way stations, starports, these are all going to be cheaper. So you could slap those even onto a 300% hazard planet and it won't be as expensive. It won't be as bad. Definitely you would not want to stick an orbital works on one because 10,000 credits would become 30,000 credits in cost, and that's assuming that you have like market supply is all good for you and so on. But in this case, look for your first world to be as low as hazard rating as you can make it, and preferably something with some sort of farm or aquaculture production. So ocean worlds are unique in that they can actually have their own farming structure. It's a bit more intensive than standard farming because it uses a bit more machinery, but it's about roughly the same in terms of production. And for food production you want to have that because later on, as you make enemies with the factions, they'll stop importing and exporting. So your colonies might start running out of food if you don't produce enough for your own colonies. You don't want them to get starved out pretty much. And then in terms of some of them, say for example my second colony, I focused on making this more of a industrial planet. So I looked for something that had all four ore types, so you'll have rare ore, standard ore, volatiles, and organics. So these come through here as organics, or transplutonic ore, and volatile, so the blue canisters for those ones. So look for your second planet, or any planet that you want to use for mining, to have all four of those if possible. They can be, -1 or +1, it doesn't matter, as long as you have all four of them. That ensures that your mining capacity is much better, and as the population increases, your mining production will also increase. So it might appear to not be a lot at the beginning, but it gets bigger for each unit of population that you have on the colony. And then of course you can always slap in an alpha core to boost the production even higher, to the point that you'll actually always have surplus material. And as for hazard rating, don't worry too much about that because the mining is not that expensive. Same for the refining. The refining is also not very expensive. However, this is completely different for something like light industry, where you're taking those organics and you're converting them into consumer goods, luxury goods, and if you're, in my case, also drugs. So that is more expensive to run. You want to build that on a lower upkeep planet, such as your ocean or your Terran worlds. But refining, you can build that right next to it alongside commerce, farming, tech mining. In this case, I also decided to build a military base on this planet just because it was having some problems with constant raids of pirates and Luddic. In fact, you can see that here they're still active. I just cleaned them out and they're still coming back. But yeah, so you want food production worlds which are low in hazard for your industry. You want high hazard worlds for your mining and light industry, or your refining capacities, which then shunts resources to the lower hazard worlds. This would be a perfect type of world for you to look for here, where you got like 75% of like rich farmland. As for mining, it doesn't matter that much. You see, on particularly this planet, it has 3 types of mining. It even has abundant organics, but I'm skipping the mining completely because I'm focusing on this planet to be just for food production, fuel production, then light industry, and then a military base. If your colonies are all close together, you might only need to build 1 military base, but in my case, mine are all spread out. So I've got my home capital here. I've got my mining world here, so that's not too far, but it's still quite cut off from the home colony. I've got my 3rd manufacturing colony all the way down here, so I'm going to need to have a military base for that one. And then finally, I've got a tech mining colony all the way up here, at the very end of the map. So, for the tech worlds, this is a planet which I'm not really caring about anything else other than the fact that it has ruins. And with these colonies, the goal is to keep them long enough until they have stripped the ruins and then to abandon the colony. At least in my case. Maybe for this one, maybe the ore might be useful enough to get for it, but I don't see the purpose of the cost. Unless the population growth is that impressive, the hazard rating will offset that anyway. You see there it's got -8 hazard rating. It just keeps getting worse the higher the hazard becomes. But for this one, I focus just on getting the core defense structures going, followed by tech mining. And when you want to look for a colony like this, look for something that has vast ruins. You can go for widespread if you want, but vast is like they're more exponential to each other. So like scattered is exponentially smaller than say widespread, which is then exponentially smaller than vast. And in terms of your depletion of the resources, they'll deplete most of them. Like I think it's about 90% is taken in the first month, and then it's a 90% of that is taken in the second month, and so on and so forth. As for how to tell when it's actually emptying out, you can see so at the very bottom of your tech mining structure, you'll get under the demands and effects, it will say first the type of the ruin, so in this case it's a vast one, and then under that it says these ruins are largely untapped. So in this case, because I've not actually taken anything yet, it's pristine, but then once you start taking things out, it will start going down. It will say, for example, that you have taken the easy pickings, but promise still remains, and then it will say most of it's been looted, but there's some hidden caches. And then I believe the 3rd ranking is saying that there's pretty much it's been picked clean. At that point, you can abandon the tech mining and do what you will with the colony. In this case, I'm going to abandon this planet because it's just too far away from everything. But how does this tech mining actually work? It doesn't give you anything specifically. It doesn't actually put out any commodities that you make money from. What it does is it routes all of its finds, such as blueprints, technology, supplies, etc., and it routes it to your production gathering point that you have under custom production. So this is also the same for where your ships that you manufacture will go and end up, but for now you can just leave it as your capital world or whatever is the easiest place to get to, and then it will all end up there. It'll be things like supplies, fuel, but hopefully blueprints and rare mods and things like that. That'll make you more money. Also AI cores. Okay, so that's the priority. Get your food production worlds up. In this case, I went like 1 and then mining, and then again for food, and then for tech mining. And of course the last type of planet you can build is ones purely just for their military value, having a military base, preferably. Say that you've now gone to war with the enemy factions. You could plop down your first military bases in, say, the Tarzet system, or Planetary Star. That's also a good starter one. If you want to get right in the middle of things, there's Dujac, which is always the same as well. So you've got Penelope Star, Dujac, and the Tarzet or Tia. There's always something in these 3 systems that's empty. You can plop a military base down from there. It's not going to be amazingly helpful to you, but it's going to keep the enemy factions at least a bit busy. Hopefully it'll keep their attention focused onto that planet, rather than, say, your more industrial worlds. And as to how to protect your planets, well, you've got, in this case, battle stations, ground defenses, and military headquarters, which spawns fleets. So your first structure, as I'm doing in my other Let's Play, is to focus on ground defenses first. Because when a pirate fleet attacks, even if you have some fleets in orbit, they're going to just fly straight past them and go to the planet. With ground defenses, though, you can maybe repel those pirate attacks and avoid having any stability from raiding that they'll do. After you've got the batteries up, then you can focus on the patrol HQ. You'll spawn some fleets out to intercept the pirates, but early on, you will have poor ship quality and poor fleet size, so it's not going to be doing a lot to deter them. It's just going to be distracting them pretty much. So after you've got the patrol HQ, focus on getting a space station. So at that point now your planet has an actual defensive system that they can't just get straight into the planet for. And the advantage of the space station is even if they raid the planet and they destroy the space station, they will in effect just cause it to be disrupted. So it'll repair itself after a period of time. You don't have to rebuild the whole station. And then in my case, what I've done here is when you start finding alpha cores, you can then put those into those structures. So like for here, the patrol HQ, you see at the very bottom it states here it also increases the fleet size. So once you have a good enough amount of population and ship quality, you pop this in your patrol HQ or your military base, and your fleets are going to start becoming incredibly massive. They'll be cleaning up the pirates for you. You won't have to worry about that anymore. Same thing applies with heavy batteries. It increases the planetary defense by an extra 50%, which can really stack up after a period of time, especially once you've got your skills and the heavy batteries and the colonies stability. Like in this case, it's a whopping 6,000 defense strength. No pirate's going to be touching that. In fact, most of the major factions won't even be touching that. And then with the battle station, you can do the same thing. And the Alpha Core acts as a ship commander or an officer, except it acts as one that has pretty much like all the skills. So it takes what is already a powerful structure and it makes it absolutely bonkers, especially once you upgrade it. Like in my case, I'm upgrading it now to a battle station. So in this case, it's going to be one of the strongest ships, you could say, in the game, combined with one of the most powerful officers in the game. So combined with the fleet defenses, enemies are going to be having a hard time getting through to the planet. This won't stop smugglers from the Luddic Path, however, because they are coming in through what looks like independent fleets. So just be aware of that. But it will stop pirate raids, inspections, things like that. And lastly, focus on getting heavy industry on your first planet. So once you've got food going and you've got all the basic structures going, get heavy industry going. Because this is the thing that manufactures you all of the good stuff for your colonies. It's also what makes you the most money. You see here in particular, actually food is making me the most money in this case, but all the other parts combined, the heavy armaments, ship hulls, supplies, heavy machinery, that all adds up to quite a lot of money as well. But it most importantly is used for is the ship quality. You see here, just having a orbital works, in this case, gives me ship quality. Being able to stick a nanoforge gives me more ship quality. Once you find a pristine nanoforge, you can make it perfect ship quality, so your fleets have no defects at all. You can upgrade your heavy industry to an orbital works just to get a little bit more ship quality out of it, and then you can stick an alpha core in there to manufacture even more of these components. It'll also unlock the ability for you to manufacture your own ships here under custom production. So you'll see here you have production capacity per month. This is how much all your heavy industry can manufacture each month, and then you can queue up each ship to go inside of that. So like here I've got a Paragon that's queued up. Divided by that amount, it'll take roughly 4 months, I would say, 3 to 4 months. And if you pick anything that's lower than that amount, it'll be built at the end of the month. The more heavy industry you have, the more capacity you have, the more ships you can build. It becomes a bit of a snowball effect where you can then start building your fleets out to just be these insane classes of ships. My favorite in particular is the Doom, just because of all those teleporting landmines, but the Odyssey and the Paragon are also particularly effective ships. So, hope that's a good little recap for colonies. I'll head off into my other Let's Play and we'll continue off from there. Perfect. See you around. I hope that was an informational video. I'll see you guys around. Thank you very much for watching.